Benjamin Johnson. Most Scientology watchers focus on how few Scientologists there actually are. But shouldn't we be talking about the dwindling staff numbers instead? For the past few years, the LA org has been staffed exclusively by Sea Org members. The Ideal org in Atlanta was practically begging people to join staff in the weeks leading up to COB's arrival with his giant ribbon-cutting scissors. And the handouts at recent Scientology events inevitably ask attendees, when can you join staff and when can you join the Sea Org? In previous videos, you said that most local churches have at most 200 to 300 parishioners, with maybe 100 actually active. But you also said that a fully staffed org needs 100 plus staff members. Where are these staff going to come from? Will the LA org be the model? As more and more Ideal orgs open, will more and more Sea Org members be shipped from Flag and Southern California to work in Buffalo, Cincinnati, or that stadium in Twin Cities? Are there enough Sea Org members to go around, or will there be more recruiting drives in Eastern Europe, Asia, and South America? Fancy uniform, $50 a week, sign me up, new American friend. Thanks and keep up the good fight. Okay, Ben, yeah, I agree that the staff numbers are dwindling. When the new Ideal orgs are open, let me just throw everything off the top of my head here. When new Ideal orgs are opened, Sea Org members go into the area and recruit up as many people as they can and throw them on staff, put them in a uniform, and they do the ribbon cutting, and chairman of the board is there, and wow, look at all these staff, and everybody's happy, and it's great. Well, he takes off that day, and within a couple weeks, definitely by a couple months, according to what I saw with my own two eyes in Twin Cities, a lot of those staff disappear. They just fade away, right? Turn in the uniforms or not, and they just go, right? Because they're not making any money. The promises that were given to them about coming on staff don't come to fruition, and they just get sick and tired of it, and they leave. So a lot of these Ideal orgs are down to, maybe when they opened they had 100 staff, but now they're down to 30, 40 staff, right? There was a woman who had just the other day left staff at Inglewood, and she said there were like 35 staff in the day org and like 40 in the foundation org or something, nights and weekends. So they dwindle in size, and Twin Cities, I'm sure, is down to maybe 25, 30 staff in the day and the foundation, right? I mean, they just shrink. Back down to the whole push to make the Ideal org happen is just a bunch of fakery. It's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Scientology is not expanding; it's shrinking. And these Ideal orgs are it's just lingo. It's just Orwellian doublespeak. They're not ideal. They're not wonderful. There's nothing great about them. And nothing is changed with those organizations except a big building. There's no new training coming in. There's no revelatory Hubbard policies found that suddenly, oh my God, this is it. This is what's going to boom Scientology everywhere. Every year or two, these mantras come down from management to the poor staff, and they get treated to this. This is it. This is going to be the thing, and they've been doing this since the 80s, right? And it never happens because Scientology is just a con. Anyway, so the staff numbers dwindle. There are probably enough Sea Org members in the world to send them out to these orgs and man them up with Sea Org members. There's about 5,000 Sea Org members, so you could probably do it. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think what is more likely is that they would double down on the Sea Org bases and make those the central Scientology centers of service and delivery, which is kind of what's happening now. It's been going on for probably really about the last 10, 15 years that real concentration is moving in on Flag, Los Angeles, right, Sydney, these bases I talked about. And most of them are tiny. I mean, they're not very big. Flag is really the only place where they're really making money. LA, Sydney, St. Hill Manor in East Grinstead, Copenhagen, those places are not money makers. They're barely keeping afloat. So they're already, centralizing activities into these bases. And I think that if they had to start closing these orgs, that's a more likely scenario than they're going to send a bunch of Sea Org members out to them. They might, in desperation, send Sea Org members out to man up a few of them. And they do send out Sea Org members to run them, right? They'll send 4 or 5 Sea Org members out, like they did with Buffalo, or a couple other places. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but there were a few places where they send what they call a command team. And they send 4 or 5 Sea Org members out there to run the show. And then it's up to them. They're just kind of left out there, and you make it happen. And if it doesn't happen, they get all the blame. And then they go to the RPF, and some new Sea Org members are sent there. Or they'll recruit some local idiots, and they'll be the executives now. And I think that's what happened in Buffalo. And, and this cycle just kind of goes on. So they'll use Sea Org members to sort of bolster or keep the orgs open for a while. But as far as fully manning them, like they did with LA Org, that would surprise me. I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think for the most part, Miscavige has given up on most of the city level orgs. And, they're just kind of left to fend for themselves and throw up whatever money and be places where the IAS regs can go, and the vultures, and suck up as much money as they can, and then go back to the Sea Org bases. And I think that's kind of the operating pattern at this point.